But I just want to know from your side, what's your take and what do you think about this work-life balance? Because I think there's just been this new term, especially in 2024. Everybody was like, no, work-life balance. And I tried to come up with a word and said it's work-life integration. I don't know about you. What's your take on that?
If you were to ask somebody, what is work-life balance? What do you really mean when you talk about work-life balance? Because as a mom, you understand that you were ahead of a mom. If you're married, you were ahead of a wife. If you're working, you were ahead of an employee. If you run your own business, you were ahead of an entrepreneur. So the most important thing is to say, how do I love integration. How do I integrate all these hats that I'm wearing, that none of them feel like they are left out?
Take us through a situation that's similar, that gave you a description of this was failure. And what is it that you learned from it?
My biggest thing when it came to what I can define as failure, I think it was my marriage.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Unspoken Truth Season 2. I'm so super excited and thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. And in case you have not yet subscribed to our channel, now is the time to do so. So today in studio, I'm joined by the most beautiful, exciting, inspiring guest. I think I'm always referring to the time we met. I met you at the Bodla event and I was emceeing there last year and you were the guest. And the way you spoke just struck me. I was like, this is a lady I have to have and host at my talk show. Welcome to my talk show, Cathy.
Thank you so much, Edie, for having me.
Listen, it will be an unjust situation if I do not do your introduction. Just in case somebody doesn't know you, which I would be shocked who doesn't know you.
You'll be surprised so many people don't know me.
So she is a life coach, she's an NLP practitioner, she is a radio and a podcast host, so I'm not alone. At least I've got a co-host right here with me. She is an inspirational speaker, a facilitator, and also an event host. You know, every time when I was going through your profile, I got to realize that a lot of things that we have in common. You're an event host, you're an MC, and then you're also an inspirational speaker. I'm like, okay, the only thing that's left on my profile is to be a radio host then.
No, most definitely. I think you've got it.
Thank you so much for joining me and Happy New Year.
Yes, compliments of the new year and all the best for the year 2025. Apparently it's 2020 thrive.
2020 thrive.
Yes.
My word for this year is more. So it will be 2020 thrive for more. Because I just feel like sometimes life happens and we forget that we are actually capable of more. Because when life happens, you go into your own shell and you're like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I failed here, I've done this and that. But I want people to remember that this year we are all about going out for more.
No, you are so right. And I think for me, it has been symbolic just looking at how we've been enjoying the rain. And the rains have not been very violent. They've been very calm, very, it's been a blessing, thinking about the farmers, thinking about everything. So for more, it is like we started the year on a good note because I take rain as a blessing. Oh, so you can imagine if you're talking about more. So that means more food, more of this, more of that. We're not going to have scarcity. Yes. So that's how I look at it.
Love that. Love that. So we're gonna start with our icebreaker, right?
Okay.
Just so that we can chill and relax and get into the interview for today. Actually, a conversation for today.
Yeah, right? Please.
So the first one, I know what you're mostly passionate about because you talk about it all the time. But I hope this time you give me a different answer. But if you were a politician and you had a chance to be a minister, which department would you like to head? And what would you change in it?
Funny enough, I think if I were a politician and I were to be a minister, I think I'll be mainly that minister of when it comes to arts and culture.
Oh.
Definitely.
I thought you'd say education.
No. I think that will make me limited when it comes to education. When you look at the arts and culture space, it is a space where you are able to express yourself in different manners. Yeah. And it is a space that we can educate so many people using the arts and our culture, putting it out there. And that will allow us to deal with boys and girls, men and women and everything, putting them in the same space and say, what can we do better? And remember, every time whenever you watch TV, whenever you listen to radio, you do all of those things. What do you remember? You remember the characters. I always tell people that when I was doing my matric, I got a distinction in English, not because I read Julius Caesar, just because Sello Magekane was playing the part of Mark Anthony.
Yes.
So when I saw the speech of Mark Anthony, it was not about the book. I remembered him.
You remembered
I remember him, and that is in the space of the arts and culture where we are able to educate other people, but by playing certain characters and everything.
Yeah.
And my passion, I'm very passionate about a boy child, and I'm very happy that the Minister of Education mentioned it, because with our matric results for this year, there have been more girls compared to boys that have done well. And I always say the forgotten boy child. So if we get into that space of arts and culture, it will allow us to say that for every 5 girls, there's other 3 boys that we are grooming, even though we are trying to balance the scale, because yes, in the past things have happened, but if we were to take every 3 boys and 5 girls, believe you me,
most definitely
all of those girls will have men to, to be on the same level.
Because we are coexisting. And I am known for Sisters Keeper, which is women empowerment.
Exactly.
And most of my life, after I've been a mother, I've actually been doing all the women empowerment stuff, also all the young girls, mentorship, and collecting sanitary towels, looking into that the most, and I will not stop. However, I was once talking to a friend of mine, and I said, you know what, God blessed me with boys. Exactly. I've got 2 boys. And the question came, who is mentoring these young boys for you? And I'm so happy that we've got a lot of people right now that are men, and they are well groomed, and they're really out there grooming other boys. And as much as I knew that I might not be able to really groom these boys to the level of self-identification when I speak to them, but at least we are in a generation where there are other men who I can collaborate with, and we also take in consideration the importance of grooming a boy child.
I love that, because you know what, I'm very fortunate that most of the time I get approached in a sense to say, Coach Cathy would like to work with you when it comes to that, because my son knows. I always say the forgotten boy child. I only have one boy, but it's a forgotten boy child, because growing up, I would look at him, and especially when it comes to the issue of gender-based violence, and don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting what is happening and all of that, but I always say that we are raising these amazing women like Itu. They know who they are, they are self-aware, they've got it all together, but we are leaving your husband behind.
Yes.
And this man meets this amazing woman who is so strong, who is so independent. Now there's imbalance. The only thing that I have over Itu is my masculinity.
Yes.
Because this is the strength that comes with me as a man. So if I want to assert authority, that is the only thing that this woman will understand, because mentally and emotionally and everything, she is up there. And I feel challenged. So I say, if you want to deal with the issue of GBV, let's start it from a very young age. Let's make sure that we've got boys that are groomed. Let's make sure that we've got girls that are groomed, so that when they meet each other, they meet in the equal society and everything. So that's what I always say. So whenever I meet guys or meet women who are saying, you know what, we are saying, let's look at the boy child. You spoke about sanitary towels. There are boys who goes without a roll-on. Nobody talks about that. There are boys who don't know proper hygiene. Nobody talks about that.
And that is part of grooming.
That is part of grooming. And now that we are realizing that we are not individuals, we are a community. We are going back to what we were raised to say, and Wana is raised by what? By the community. I'm happy that we are getting into that point where we are saying, you are good at this, you are good at that. If we come together, we are able to bring out amazing young girls and amazing young boys.
Oh man, that's so amazing. I'm glad that we look at it the same way. So who did you look up to when you were growing up, and why?
For some reason, you laugh. Growing up, I've always called myself Marcia Turner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now it tells my age.
I don't want to talk about your age, because you look 3 times younger than your age. And I've always told you we need to go to Home Affairs and double check this.
Yeah. I think I've always looked up to a lady by the name of Marcia Turner. To start with, always when you've got a dark skin, it has always been an issue. Growing up, you'll be called names and everything. If you think I'm dark, I'm not dark. Growing up, I was very, very, very dark. But the confidence and everything, whenever I would listen to Marcia Turner, I've always considered myself as a queen. You know, and that's how I always address myself. Dark as I was, I always embraced the person that I was and the confidence that came with me just listening to a Lux advert. And that helped me that throughout the way, my grandmother continued with that. You know, she was like that person, you know, she'll laugh at me. She used to call me Trina and just laugh at me when I do all of those things. But that's what got me into this amazing woman that has always been confident from a very young age. And nobody has ever said, you know what, try to dim your light, try to
change
do
this and
no,
that.
If anything, I got support in everything.
Lovely. Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner will do.
Oh, okay. If you had to be featured in a series, what role would you like to play?
Whew. I guess it depends what kind of a series it is, right? I think when you've been too much of a good girl, probably getting a role that will get me out of my comfort zone.
I see. Winter or summer?
Summer all the way.
Summer all the way. Yeah, you are a bright dresser, so you definitely do with summer, right?
Yeah, no, summer all the way. I always say, you know, the difference with winter is that we have to be all dressed up and everything. Summer, if I get hot, I can always take off some layers. But no, summer all the way.
Lovely. You've already mentioned your grandmother. You've mentioned how you, growing up, you've been a confident young child and you've always identified yourself as strong, powerful women in the space of media as well. Tell us a little bit more about how your childhood journey was. Growing up, where did you grow up? You know, and it just briefly, you know, so that we get to know this Coach Cathy, because we always hear you behind the radio waves and we don't really know much about this coach.
You'll be so surprised. I always tell people, you know, I met this girl from Amaskral, so I'm a rural girl. Through and through. I'm a rural girl. I didn't grow up in the burbs like what most people think I am. I grew up in Dilopie. And only when I was, what grade was I doing? They call it grade what now? Yeah, the standard. It's a
Form.
Yeah, form. Before I went to boarding school in Limpopo. I went to Fatima, Hamantati. Yes, that's where I started to learn how to speak Sotokwa. And from there, I moved to Huiti, Kobangweng. So I went to school there. So that was my life, speaking Tswana, and the next thing I find myself having to do Sepedi, and then I find myself coming to Soweto because my mom is a retired nurse. Now I had to stay with mom. Then I come to Soweto, now I had to do Southern Soweto. So basically I never identify myself as a Sowetan because I don't know much about Soweto. I never would identify myself as to say I'm a suburban girl or anything. My roots are definitely from Hammanskraal, and I think that's where I was grounded. That's where I was taught Botu. That's where I was taught a whole lot of things. And that's where even today, when I look back, I'm like, I am who I am because of the community that raised me. Because you can imagine my mom was not there. We were raised by my grandmother. But there was so much love. There was so much, you know what? Everything was there. And even when I go back home, I still feels like home. It doesn't feel strange or anything. I still go back to the same community that still embrace me, and I still embrace them. So yeah, man, through and through.
Rural girl, grew up all over the other provinces, but still rural. Yeah. One of the things we have in common, I'm rural.
Yes.
Yes, my parents tried to but every time I'm in Zanin, there is a sense of belonging that I have. You know, the neighbors who just come in and sit there as if they've been part of the family throughout, and you have to dish for them, whether you know their name or not. You just have to live as a family within the community. That's one thing we have in common. What's your definition of happiness? What does happiness look like for you?
I think I'll talk more about joy, right? Because, you know, happiness is something that right now I can say that I'm happy and you do something else and then I'm in my mood. But I will talk more about joy. You know, the joy that you get from inside, where it is not circumstantial, you know, regardless of what is going on in your life, but you can always look back and say, you know what, after all, there is contentment. You know, whenever you have challenges, you look at the positive side of things and say, I've got a roof over my head. I am blessed with amazing kids. I've got good friends. I've got a job. I've got this. And it comes with that joy that you have inside, where you don't allow your environment to influence whether you are happy or you're not happy. But you've got it from within you to say that I will do everything within me to make sure that even in the toughest of situations, there will still be that joy that comes from within.
I love what you're saying, because then it talks about practicing the spirit of gratitude on day to day. And I think something that I've actually been trying to do recently, I've always heard about what do you call
Gratitude
journaling,
journal, yes.
and I'm like, okay, you know what, I come from a village, and I would hear people talking about speak to yourself. I'm like, yo, never go to one when you start speaking to yourself.
Exactly.
But then I've gotten to see the importance, especially when you just got here and we're talking about the importance of spending time on your own. And I'm like, okay, now this is an affirmation that I need to spend time with myself, because that's where you get to acknowledge those things. I've got a roof over my head. Oh, I don't have to struggle to get certain things, and I'm healthy. I'm okay with what I have right now, and I still have the ability to go for more.
Yeah.
And that just brings you down to that place of, you know what, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
And I love that definition. So you and I have been talking about balancing life and motherhood, being there, wearing different hats as women. And I just want to know from your side, what's your take on this concept of balancing life? And I don't want to talk about mine because mine is way opposite of that. And I think we share the same sentiment. But I just want to know from your side, what's your take and what do you think about this work-life balance? Because I think there's just been this new term, especially in 2024. Everybody was like, no, work-life balance. And I tried to come up with a word and said it's work-life integration. I don't know about you. What's your take on that?
What I've realized is that we like when words are being thrown around. Most of us, we love them, work-life balance and everything. If you were to ask somebody, what is work-life balance? What do you really mean when you talk about work-life balance? Because as a mom, you understand that you were ahead of a mom. If you're married, you were ahead of a wife. If you're working, you were ahead of an employee. If you run your own business, you were ahead of an entrepreneur. So the most important thing is to say, how do I love integration. How do I integrate all these hats that I'm wearing, that none of them feel like they are left out? How am I going to balance? How am I going to decide to say, I spend time with my kids, I spend time with my husband, I spend time at work? So it comes with discipline. And I think that's something that we spoke about off air, where you decide to say that I work a 9-to-5 job. So meaning that from 9 to 5, I dedicate my time to work. That's what I'm doing. The minute it hits 5 o'clock, I close my laptop. And it becomes something that everybody knows about it, being it your boss, being it your colleagues, that when I close this laptop, that's it. I will not entertain any calls when it comes to work, when it comes to whatever. And once you have communicated those to people, they know you. At the beginning, they might be like, what do you mean? And you don't owe anybody an explanation. My time, I've given you your time, which is a 9 to 5. When I get home, how do I work around my time? I will get home from this time to this time, and it becomes to say that from this time to this time when I get home, it will be about preparing dinner. I will prepare dinner, prep meals, and if you want to make sure that you integrate your kids as well. You know, they can be as small as they are. Give me a potato there, give me that, give me that.
My son loves being part of the kitchen making
But what
food.
does it do? You're spending time with your child. During that 1 hour, 2 hours of you preparing a meal, he has picked up the potato, he has done this, he has done that. And if sometimes you find husbands that will say, even if I look at you and not do anything, then while you're busy doing that, it's about how was your day? How did it go? And they start telling you. And at that time, nobody feels like it's an interrogation room or anything. They start even telling you about what happened at school, what this person did. What are you doing? This is the time that you're spending with your kids and everything. Then once at the dinner table, dinner is at a certain time. When dinner's at a certain time, everybody is expected to be there at dinner. We don't have phones, we don't have any electronic devices. There's nobody who's going to a meeting. We're not eating in front of the TV and all of that. So meaning that when you talk about integrating your lifestyle and everything, it's about being intentional about how you're going to balance this life thing. It is doable. It is possible. It will take discipline, and it will take a lot of communication to say, this is how we do things in the house. And once you do that, believe me, nobody will even invite you for dinner.
Because they understand that
no,
these are your boundaries.
These are your boundaries, and you've communicated them. And I always say, if you've communicated your boundaries, I don't need to explain my boundaries to you. You
know what I like is the fact that you keep mentioning communicate. And I think that's where most of us fail. And that's where we start building unrealistic expectations, because no one actually ever said, nah, this is what I'm expecting, whether in the workspace or in a relationship. And we usually say it a lot in relationships, but we do not consider speaking and communicating our boundaries and expectations in a workspace.
Yeah.
And that's when you start finding people saying, I'm fatigued, or I'm in an unhealthy working environment. Meanwhile, it was you who did not communicate.
You
that
created the
expectation.
environment.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, when you started, you entertained it. And now when you want to stop it, everybody's like, how? You've been. No sharp, then what happened? And we start calling our working environment toxic and everything.
Yeah.
But we are the ones who actually make people think that we are always available.
Talking about unrealistic expectations and communicating them. One of the biggest fears of myself, I think that I had to actually work on, it was the fear of failure. Take us through a situation that's similar, that gave you a description of this was failure, and what is it that you learned from it?
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest thing when it came to what I can define as failure, I think it was my marriage. That was the one thing that I would say it's failure. I did not excel in it. For the mere fact that I ended up being divorced, that means I had an assignment and I could not even finish that assignment. I failed at it, And that was the one thing that I had to sit down, have conversation with myself to say, what went wrong? What is it that did not happen? Or what is it that happened that I was not aware of? Or, those kind of things. And it got me to deep thinking to say, when did this all start? And it comes back to what we were talking about. Having conversation with yourself, having to go back and to say, how did I find myself in this situation? Yeah. And it comes back to what? Communication.
Yeah.
So many things were happening, so many things were done, but so many things were unsaid.
Yes. When you said that, you're taking me back to the day you were speaking at the border event, and you said at some point you took your phone and you called your ex-husband after you've divorced. You're like, listen, I just wanted to clarify that at some point, this was my part in the marriage where I let things go that I should have addressed. And I laughed so hard, I kept that with me. Actually, you should be addressing things as they go.
Yeah. What happens is that you talk about unexpected expectations. Certain things happen, you're not happy with them, but you do not address them. And it's that issue to say, no, things will get better. No, I will get used to it. You will not get used to certain things that you do not love. You cannot get used to, like I said, you cannot get used to abuse. You cannot get used to, abuse might not be verbally, emotional abuse, financial abuse, or any of that. But the mistake that we do as women, we always have this thing to say people will change, or I will change people. I have come to the realization that I did not create anyone. I did not create anyone. Therefore, the creator is the one who can change him. It is not my responsibility to change anyone or to be saying, you should behave in this manner, And it's one of those things. So it's about taking accountability to say that, yes, I find myself in this space where I'm no longer with my husband. I am divorced. Which role did I play that for us to get here? I might not have contributed 50% or 60%, even the 20% that I would have contributed, it might have led us to that, because not communicating what I was not happy with or not saying anything, that could have been something that maybe it was building resentment.
Yeah.
Maybe when things happened and you wake up one morning, you realize that, you know what, the wounds are so deep that they cannot be healed. You find yourself, you wake up and realize that, you know what,
I can't do this.
I can't do this. And the person does not even realize, right?
Yes, because they're used to this.
It is the norm.
Yes.
It is the norm. They are used to that.
So would you say that the biggest thing that you learned from that situation that you defined as failure was the importance of communicating yourself and being so assertive about it?
Definitely. That if you do not like something, talk about it. And you know what, communication it's something that I spoke to my son. I remember when he was telling me that, there's a young girl in his life and everything. I said, Bona, communication is key. Talk about things and have uncomfortable communication. Have uncomfortable conversations.
The unspoken truth.
The unspoken truth. Talk about it. What is it that makes you uncomfortable? What is it? Yes, sometimes it might be But you need to create this space to say that this is a safe space. I'm talking to you because you're my partner.
Yeah.
I talk to you because I love you. I talk to you because I want us to work out.
It comes from a good place.
It comes from a good place. And once you do that,
everything else is bound to flow.
Yeah.
And talking about failure, it brings me back to also fear, another second fear that I've realized most people have in common, which is the fear to making mistakes. Especially now, it's just the beginning of the year, and people are trying to create their vision boards and ensuring that they make smart life goals. How do you then navigate life and stay away or run away from approaching life with that fear of, I'm fearful of making mistakes?
There is no way you're going to grow if you're going to approach life like that. Life is not guaranteed. We make those beautiful goals. We make those beautiful visions to say, I would like to see this happening. Things might not turn out that way. Remember, that's why they call it a vision board. This is what I would like to see happening. But there is no guarantee that all of those things is going to happen. And that's why even when we talk about SMART goals, for those who don't know what SMART means, it means, they must be measurable, attainable,
realistic,
time-based, and all of those things. Meaning that you need to be specific. What is it that I want to achieve in 2025? And with that I want to achieve, how am I going to measure that I have achieved that which I wanted to do? And how long is it going to take for me to get to that goal? When I become realistic, is it attainable? Am I going to do that? And the reason why we fear making mistakes is because we make goals that we know ourselves they're not attainable. And now you are so worried that I've committed myself into this big project that I might not be able to finish, but I wanted to do it because I wanted to build my mom a house.
Yeah.
But you know that your financial situation does not allow you at this point in time to build your mom the kind of house that you want to build them. But if you were honest with mom and say, Mommy, eventually I will do it. But right now, my financial situation does not allow me to do that. And once it goes back to communication. So meaning that whenever we in life, we will make mistakes. Some people make mistakes by falling pregnant. January, right now, 9 months later, we'll be talking different stories. Birimarun. That decision that you make when you're doing Birimarun, 9 months later, it is a mistake.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Are you going to hate that child? It is about what have I learned from this? And then how can I, going forward, how can I do things better? Next time I'll be protected. Next time I'll make sure that, I do all sorts of things. So when it comes to decisions and making our goals for a year and all of that, be realistic about them. Just say, what is it that I want? Whenever I do vision board, I'm my teens. We're having a vision boarding session now, or that weekend of the 14th of February.
Yes.
And whenever I do my vision board with my teenagers, I always tell them, they divide them into their physical, their mental, their academics, their spiritual, and all of that.
Yes.
And they become, I always say, try, because they're young, try to make sure that you do a goal for each term.
Oh, yes.
And by doing a goal for each term, what does that do for you? Once you attain that, you become so excited about it, energetic, and think, yes, I was able to do it.
Optimistic.
Let's go and do it.
Yeah.
And that goes with their academics, because we always say, no, you need to get this. I always look at their reports. That's the one thing that they need to bring when they come. This is your results from last year. Where do we want to go? And maybe they'll say, somebody has got 50, ma'am, I want to go to 70. Well, you're not going to just jump to 70. You're not going to wake up and get 20% over there. And I'm like, our neck for the first term, we're doing 55.
55, yeah.
Let's go for 5%. And believe you me, most of them, they will exceed even the 5%. But we're going for 5% because 5% is achievable. It is attainable. It is possible for me to go up with 5% than for me to say go up with 10% or 20%.
Yeah.
Then there is so much pressure. And what does that make? Anxiety and all of that. And once the first term comes and you get a phone call, Coach, I managed to get whatever that I wanted. And it's like, well done. Celebrate the milestone.
Yeah.
I always tell them, even going for coffee, just go to Wimpy and drink that bottomless coffee or whatever it is. Just sit there and say, you know what? I'm buying this coffee for what I have achieved. And what we're training our mind, that every time we do something good, we get to celebrate, we become happy. Then it becomes next term. Yeah, I did 55. We're going for 60. So by the time the year ends, we have actually achieved the 70 that we wanted. Because what people do is that most of the time, whenever we cannot achieve them, you want to learn things that you know already. Don't learn the 50% that you know. You've passed the 50%, you know the 50%. Let's learn the 50% that you don't know. Let's grow and do that. So if you're going to walk in life thinking that you will not make mistakes and every time, you're just going to sit back and do absolutely nothing. Because all that you're worried about, what if I make mistakes? And the question is, what if you don't?
You know what? While you're talking about the mistakes, one of the things that I know is also a challenge in making smart life goals is the ability to let go of those unrealistic plans you've made for yourself.
You spoke about it like you were talking about when people start businesses.
Yes.
You know, you start a business, you start with a why. My why is this and that. And along the way, your why changes. Once your why has changed, why are you not changing with it? You know, I remember I was talking to Tetanyati, the author of Betting on a Ducky. And he said to me, you know, Cathy, I'm such a lazy person. And I laughed. I'm like, why? He says, I like things to flow. You know, I don't like to go against the current. I like things to flow. Most of us, we like to go against the current, and it becomes, the current is going that way. We want to go up. So the most important thing that you can do for yourself is that when you've had this goal or you've had this vision that you wanted for it to happen, and you can see that this is not possible, this is not attainable, you are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to say that, you know what, right now, it is not the right time to do this. I will pack it. I will do something else. Yes. So you are allowed to pack it and say, eventually,
I will come back.
I will come back.
Yeah.
I will get that car. I will get this. But right now, my financial circumstances only allow me to buy a certain car within a certain range, and I would do that.
I love what you've just said now to say, he says, I love going with the flow, not against the current.
Yeah.
That's so profound, because truly we always stress ourselves based on the fact that we are never in the moment. We are never in the current season. Exactly. We are always looking for more. And I don't know what it is, because naturally as human beings, we just never get satisfied. Like every time you attain something, you want more of it, which is a good thing. However, we never get a chance to sit down and appreciate the ones that we have currently. And I love what you've just said, because it reminds me that then we need to every season understand what the message is, understand what you have to learn, and also letting go. I'm still learning on the art of letting go.
And when it comes to letting go, it comes back to what we're talking about, gratitude journaling. Once you start having gratitude, believe you me, you will not be that person who say, I need to have more, I need to whatever. You are able to say, wow, this is where we at. You know, it goes as simple as I do my gratitude journaling in the evenings. It goes as simple as to say, I smiled when I saw somebody. Or I got a compliment to say that you look absolutely gorgeous today. Or simple things. Or I looked at the bed. I remember one time I was driving and I think I saw somebody doing something in the other car. I found myself smiling to say, they're having such a great time in their car. And for me, that was my moment of gratitude. To say that a stranger that I did not even know got me smiling.
Yes.
And I am thankful for that. And probably at that time, that's what I needed, to just see that. So gratitude is on small thing, is to identify what happened in your day. And once you do that, that means you are in a moment.
Yes.
You are aware
of the surroundings. Exactly. And also one of the things that this other friend of mine, this gentleman, taught me about journaling. He said, you see, journaling is like depositing. It's like depositing your own thoughts and your own moments. It's like your old picture, what do you call album.
Yes.
So every time you want to go down the memory lane of your life and take stock of exactly how your life has been, you can always go back to that journal and realize how grateful your life has been, how graceful your life has been. Because the minute you do not document how you've been through that day, years later, the moments that are always stuck in our hearts are the sad moments. We always remember that, even the good relationship of 20 years, you remember that one thing. But you don't remember the other things. So it's like the other good things are there. You package them so that when the time comes and you need a reminder, you can go back and realize, no man, my life has been amazing.
And that's the beauty of journaling. Because in your down moments, those are the books you go back to. When you feel like, I don't feel it today. Or when you feel like life is overwhelming. When you feel like, no man, it doesn't look like I've got it all together. And you go back to your journaling, you go back to, because I've got two. I've got my gratitude journal, and I've got the other one that I call the Dear Secret Keeper. That's where I pour my heart out. I allow the pen to just do it, and everything that I'm feeling, it goes into that piece of journal and everything. And it is one of those that you can see that I've been victorious. Once upon a time I was in this space. Once upon a time I was in a dark place. But wow, Catherine, you've come out a long way. And that helps you to say that even in the current situation, I am able to come out of it.
That's a lovely quote. I love it that you're reminded how victorious you've been. You speak so highly of your age. I think it's because you don't look your age. So you're like, I'm 55, I'm 50. How old are you now?
I'm actually turning 48.
You're turning 48 this year, yes. And you're always like, when I'm 55, I'm going to do this. When I'm 55, I'm like, but you're far from 55. And then you said, girl, I'm over 40.
Yeah, when they say black don't crack, right?
Black don't crack, really now, I see it. So, I want to know, what's your takeaway on life? What has been your takeaway of life this far?
To be honest, I've been one of the most grateful people that you can ever find. I was talking to a friend last night, and when you're checking in, how you doing, how you feeling. I'm one of those people, whenever I say, how are you? My how are you is not where you're going to tell me, I'm fine, thanks, and how are you? When I say, how are you, I want to know, where are you when it comes to your emotions, your mind, where you at? And he said to me, I'm thinking about the things that I want to achieve and everything. I think I know that, but it's the implementation process to say, how am I going to do it? And he said to me, how are you? And I said, I'm sitting here full of gratitude, looking at where life is. Right now, we are waiting for my baby, who is 18, for her matric results. And when I think what happened 8 years ago, when she was only 10, and today she's 18. And look, my son is married. I've got a daughter-in-law. I've got my middle one who is a project manager. She's just graduated last year. And I said, I'm sitting here in awe of what life has been to me. And all that I can say is that God has been faithful. God has been kind. And I lack nothing. I might not have the material things. I might not have the best house that people might think that but I am so full of love. I'm so surrounded by amazing people. And I'm so at peace. It actually scares me sometimes. Yes. I'm so at peace that the way I am, what life has taught me is to live in the moment and appreciate every moment. And when situations or I find environments that do not really serve me, I walk away with such peace. There's no drama. I remember, I was telling somebody something happened. It was in December. When that happened, I think everybody expected maybe for me to explode. You know what was my words? I was like, I'm too old for this. Honestly, that's when I saw that I've grown.
I'm too old for this.
I said, I'm too old for this. And that's it. That was the only words that I said.
It just reminded me of this other lady I once spoke to, and she's like, you know what? I'm at an age where I'm able to say, I'm not crying about this today. I'm able to postpone my emotions. I put my emotions in baskets. I'm like, today I'm doing this one. This one, today.
And this, and that's when you get to an age of self-awareness and realization to say that you are responsible for your own peace. You are responsible for your own joy. And anything that does not bring you joy, you cannot sit here and blame Itu for it. You made a decision to allow Itu to affect you. I remember, I love the quote, I think it's by Eleanor Roosevelt, said, nobody will ever make you inferior without your permission.
Your permission, yes.
So in anything that is happening in your life, you've given permission. You've permitted that thing to happen. Don't tell me that you didn't have a choice. The choice, you made it when you allowed for that thing to happen. It was a choice nonetheless. Not having a choice, it's a choice on its own.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that I think when I'm looking at my Jubilee years, the Lord willing, I'm like, you know what, God, you've been so gracious.
Yes.
And to be honest, I'm grateful for my life. And I mean for the good and the bad, because I have learned so much from them, and they have produced this woman that I am today.
You are so big on affirmations, and it obviously ties down to your ability to be in a space of gratitude. What's your favorite affirmation code?
I don't really even have one, the affirmation code. But like I said, I think I go with the one person that I really like to quote is Maya Angelou. You know, I believe that she's got beautiful affirmation quotes where she reminds us of how beautiful you are. You know, it's like, still I rise. You know, that even in the midst, like what is that thing? Like, why am I forgetting that? And that's my favorite.
Yeah.
You know, say, you can throw me with stones. You can do
write me off. Like
still,
dust.
Like dust, but I rise.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. Like every day, whatever situation it is, born a guy, woman, you rise. The most important thing about falling is not the falling. It's about getting up.
You know, recently I came across a woman. She was being interviewed on it was on Instagram, and she said, she's an old woman actually, and she says, one thing I want people to know is that in every situation that I find myself in, I will be okay. I will be safe, and I am safe. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come out of this situation okay. So that you know, whatever happens now in the now moment, it will pass eventually. And I think that's what I loved about that quote, was to remind me that nothing is permanent under the sun. Every season passes by, and new experiences will definitely come. In closing, Coach Cathy, what's next? What's next? Where to from here?
I've mentioned my heart is with the young people, and people will ask me, what do you do? I say I sell confidence for a life.
Say that again.
I sell confidence for a living, and raising self-aware, confident young men and women. That is my passion, and that is something that is very close to my heart. So yes, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm loving it, I'm enjoying it. But every time I see a young person that I have met and they were so timid and like, life is so hard, and I meet them years later and they're like, Coach, you remember? Coach, this and that makes my life happy. So I think my time, it will be more invested in young people, in the youth, and already there are doors that are opening that are saying, come, let's collaborate, come, let's work together. And the beauty about it is not only in Gauteng, so it's going all over and everything. And that's where the Lord willing, that's where I would like to see that, because we in Gauteng are very privileged that all of these things are surrounded by that. But being able to even train other people. You know, the whole idea is not for me to do the work. It's for me to go out there to say, this is how we do a vision board. This is how we set goals. This is how we do the team talks. Maybe attend my online team talks. Let me train you. Do something with the young people. And then you plant the seed, then you move. You plant the seed, you move. You know, my son said we must never have a scarcity mentality. And I always say changing one life at a time. I will not be able to do it by myself. But with the community, we are able to go far and touch lives. So that's all about me.
That's so wonderful. I want to remind you that you are a flower and that you are lovable and that you're pretty. And with that, there is a small token from me. And the token is, can I have the flowers? These flowers are for you.
Thank you so much.
As a reminder that you're awesome, you're lovable, you're bright, and your light is as bright as those flowers. It can never be dimmed. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I do love flowers, and I will remember every time I see yellow flowers, I see all of this, they will definitely remind me of you. And thank you so much for having me. It has been absolutely a pleasure, and the conversation was amazing.
There you have it, the Unspoken Truth Talk Show Season 2, first episode with the lovely Coach Cathy. We're going to see you once more again. I am because you are. Have a lovely day. Bye.